Or you could do a Paul Shield where you buy a car with loads of stuff on it, sell half of it off of it, then replace it with cheap stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Christian here. Welcome to another episode of the £1,000 Drift Build. We've had a bit of a problem in the shop, which is we can't exactly decide on what is and what isn't included in the build. Now the problem is the budget's £1,000. We've started with nothing. We've spent 500 quid on the car so far, and we have £500 left to basically turn it into a decent drift car. But the issue we have is we can't fully decide on where that £500 should be spent and what is really required on a decent drift car. So do you need coilovers? Because you can drift a car without coilovers. You can drift a car with a welded diff. You can buy an MX-5 for 200 quid, welded diff. You've got a drift car. But is it a decent drift car? We don't think it is. We think there's a certain level, and that level would need to be to at least link one of the qualifying lines around some of the circuits in the UK, be that Three Sisters or Driftland or Teesside or something like that. And we think we can still do it for £1,000, but we're going to have that discussion now today. Well, some parts have arrived, and Charles is here to have a conversation with me. And we've also got Trevor Fileman, who's come up because we're doing some other work on his E30 competition drift car. So basically, make a final decision on what we are or what we aren't including in the £1,000 drift build.
Yep.
So
what have we got?
We've got £1,000 budget.
To build this car. Yeah.
To build this car. We've started at zero. We've spent 500 quid.
Yeah.
So we've got 500 quid left, and I'm saying we need coilovers.
Yeah.
And we need them new. And the reason we need them new is because they need to be cheap.
Right.
If you get second-hand ones, like a really good second-hand brand, and you spent 200, 300 quid, then you're kind of lucky. But we got these for how much?
170.
Yeah, so the max speeding rod coilovers can be found on eBay for an E46 complete car, brand new, for 170. Yeah, so that's the cheapest we thought you could get
for new coilovers,
for brand new coilovers. The max speeding rod coilovers are obviously budget coilovers, and when they're new and they're on a drift car, they basically work. They're low, you can get them quite low, car's stiff, and I think for a new entry-level drift car, to learn how to drift in, the car needs to be low and stiff. The lower it is and the stiffer it is, the easier it is to transition the car, and the easier it is to kind of maintain a skid. It's not rolling, and you're not fighting all that sort of stuff. So that's why I think it's the right decision to go for just a set of 170 quid max speed and rod coilovers.
Yeah.
Right, so you're in agreement with that?
I'm in agreement with that. The only thing to bear in mind for anyone who's not had them before is they're a bit of a set and forget coilover, because they take a bit of maintenance to
keep on top of them.
I don't know whether it's worth saying that.
For a road car? Yeah, what do you think, Trev?
I mean, I've driven cars that have got completely standard suspensions like an IS200, and you can drift them. It takes a lot to do it. When you transition, you've got a lot of body roll. It does make it a little bit more uncontrollable.
Yeah. So
to have a set of coilovers, even a very basic set, like a set of max speeding rods, is going to help massively. I mean, you could even look on sort of Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that. Sometimes they even pop up second hand for 80, 90 quid for a full
for
set.
A set,
So, I mean, if you're lucky enough and you can find some cheaper for second hand, it's good. But to be fair, you're doing the right thing, I think, by buying new, because you know that they're going to work straight out the box.
And you've got that adjustment.
They're not leaking. Yeah. They're not seized up, and you've got that adjustability.
Yeah, like what Charles said, when they're on a road car and they've been on the car for a bit, like you said, the whole fit and forget thing, they get a bit corroded, they seize up, and you can't adjust them, but at least you want something to go your way when you're building your first drift car. And if you put on a set of brand new coilovers, they're on. And, it looks nice when they're on. So we're not going to get this £1,000 drift car built, £1,000 decent drift car built for £1,000 with only £500 to spend on coilovers and all the other essentials. So we are actually having to buy some second-hand stuff. So we've got a Sparco Evo seat, an old Sparco Evo seat.
GRP.
GRP seat. It's quite light. It's obviously scruffy. but it was, how much was it?
20 quid.
20 quid.
Yeah.
And we have a hydro. Now, this is one of the things we're talking about with regards to this build is a hydro essential for a decent drift car? I think it absolutely is essential for a decent drift car. I think it's better to put a hydro in basically any car you want to drift. Now, you can take a car, you know, lower it, weld the diff, go and drift around, but you can't aim to be a consistent line driver without making the correction. So what you're then making it difficult for yourself to be reliably within trains, within groups of people going out, which is why I would insist on a hydraulic handbrake.
It's always good to have it there as a backup. It's not something you want to be using all the time, but it is a good tool to have there as a backup. It's not something.
I think though, if you're starting off on drifting, it's something that you do use all the time because
it
allows you to enter a corner much more controllably. If you're just learning to drift, you're not going to go straight down to a bend at 50 mile an hour and start throwing the weight round and clutch kicking at the same time because they're likely just to clutch kick into a wall. But they can go down at a decent pace, pull the hydro, get sideways, and then power on.
Yeah, within their first drift day, if you do have a hydraulic handbrake, you can basically spend most of the day drifting. Rather than,
and then I would,
you know what I mean? People say it's a cop out though. That's the thing. People say, "Oh, you shouldn't have this. You're not a drifter if you don't have this." That's. I understand what they're saying, but it's not a cop out. If you want to have a decent drift car and you want to learn drifting efficiently and not be wasting money, and you can spend the rest of the money that you're willing to spend then on seat time, which is absolutely critical.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think the hydro is part of the process, so we're all in agreement with that.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously teach people how to drift anyway, and to be fair, we do start off with the basics of donuts, figure eights, but sort of by the end of a full day's one-to-one session, we are teaching you how to dip the clutch and use the hydro efficiently to enter a corner, because it is a very useful tool in a drift car. And to be fair, you wouldn't have a drift car without a hydro in. I personally wouldn't anyway.
Yeah.
So I think a hydro is a very good investment. And again, you can pick them up second-hand so cheap.
Yeah.
15, 20 quid. I sold one recently before I put my reverse mount into my comp car. I sold it to someone for 20 quid including postage.
Yeah, exactly. So what you pay, was it 15 quid for this, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the bracket's broke, but we can repair that. It's a 0.75 cylinder, which isn't what everyone would use, but this is what we got. We got the two fittings with it and some copper line, and it's a big handle. It's a big handle as well, so that was cheap. So which is a winner. Something to consider is we have to weld the diff on the car. It needs a welded diff.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no discussion there.
No.
And something that we do need to discuss that we can't fully decide on is whether rear camber arms or toe arms. It's whether these are essential for a good drift car.
Me and you were at odds about it a little bit, but I've sort of conceded to the fact that you will get better tyre wear starting off, so the tyres that you got are going to last longer.
Yeah.
You spend more time in your seat.
Yeah, sorry, just to clarify, you put these on so that basically when you lower the car, you can square the rear wheels up, so you're not wearing one side, you're just the inside of the tyre. So you get a much flatter wear across the tyre. Your tyres basically last a lot longer, you get much more value out of the tyres, less time coming off track changing tyres, and you get a bit more grip. Now, if you've got too much grip, you can inflate the tyres to reduce the grip that the tyre gives you as a whole, but at least you're still wearing the full tyre, and that's the reason why I think these are essential. These were 50 quid off of eBay, and you can buy them.
I think you noted earlier as well. Whilst the diff is out,
that's what
you need to be able to have the diff out to be able to fit these. So whilst the diff's out to be welded, perfect time to spend 50 quid and get those on, and it's going to save you money in the long run, as you say, on tyre changes and tyre wear. It's also going to make the car more controllable because you've got that extra bit of grip there. You're not constantly on the inner edge of the tyre and having a lack of grip.
Yeah.
So I personally think it'd be a good investment.
With it being an E46, to install these at any point, you need to remove the differential, and we need to remove the differential anyway to weld the diff. So it's a little bit on the fence with camber arms. You can obviously go out and drift a car without having the rear wheels fully squared up. You can obviously do that, but they're cheap to buy, which is one of the reasons,
Yeah.
coming back to again, one of the reasons why we're using an E46 is because the parts are cheap to buy.
It's cheap.
170 quid for brand new coilovers.
Yeah.
Obviously the seat and the hydro can go in any car, but these were 50 quid.
Yeah, and sometimes you can get them cheaper.
So,
I'm
Yeah.
sure I've seen them like down at the 35.
and on that note, it's still leaving nearly £250 left for the rest of the build,
Yeah, so what are we up to
even
now?
after these parts.
170,
Yeah,
It'd be 755 quid.
250.
250, yeah.
Yeah, we're at 250.
Right, so what else do we need? We need a harness.
We need a harness. Yeah.
You know, a decent drift car, you're not going to go out in a bucket seat and run a standard seat belt.
No.
And in addition to that, we're taking maximum weight out of this car, and we're going to do, obviously, as I said in the first episode, we're going to weigh the car,
Yeah.
full corner weight system on it, top of the line corner weight system on it. We're going to gut the car. Everything that needs to come out is coming out. We're going to gut it like we're gutting a pro level build, but that's basically because it's free. We don't need to. The only thing we're not going to change is the glass, because that's something that somebody would have to pay for.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Now,
And also polycarbonate windows are
Yeah.
the cheapest of things either. You
Exactly.
probably
So-
fill
so-
the rest of your budget out on just those alone.
so going down the line, there's an elephant in the room now, which I don't know if you've thought about yet. Is we have this car, we fitted coilovers, we welded the diff, we fitted the camber arms, we've got a seat, a harness, which I'm sure we can get.
One thing we're not accounting for in that 250 is the price of welding diff.
Well, that's a slightly separate conversation, because we're not allowing the price of installing a hydro. There's a bit of work involved in that.
True, yeah.
But
Some people are
if-
going to.
If you've got a mate with a MIG welder and a couple of bits
yeah,
of plate,
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
you know, it's one of those. I mean, I know some people that will weld a diff for 50 quid if you take it to them out the car.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, even if you accounted that into the cost, it's still.
Yeah,
what's
we're
it
still
is.
under budget.
Still well
Okay,
under budget.
so at Firefly Speed Shop, we build some crazy cars. It would be very easy for us to suddenly just start throwing things at this car and making the build really, really unrealistic. Having, you know, we've got to make some seat mounts now, some seat side rails, because there's a side mount bucket seat. Now you can get them for cheap, or we can make something, or whatever the case is. We've got to install these. I think I'm going to make some changes to these just to reinforce them a little bit.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say is we need to decide how we're going to factor in what Firefly Speed Shop is going to do to facilitate the build on this car in terms of fabricating with welding the diff. So all right, say
Well,
we're going to allow.
I don't know whether that needs to happen, because surely the majority of drifters are going to be doing work on their own car, because they're not going to go with like a garage
Yeah.
team crew to the pits. are they?
Okay. So let's look at it like this. This guide is aimed at people who are going to have access to some basic tools. They're going to
Yeah.
be able, or for the most part, to do the majority of this stuff themselves, if not all of it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be some things that people have to pay for. So this guide will not work for everyone, but I think as a general thing, it's more
Just to show
about
the affordability,
just as an
accessibility
outline.
of
yeah,
this.
it's to show, for me, what you definitely need and what you definitely don't need.
Right.
Right now,
Yeah.
we've not talked about steering angle.
I mean,
I know that's
steering angle.
So
options you've got.
what were we up to? Sorry, Trev. What were we up to? 255 quid
Without the diff.
without the diff.
Without
So
the
say
diff.
50 quid is the diff. The diff
Yeah, so 300 quid.
is-
200 quid left.
is 305 pounds we're up to of improvement. So we're now actually 805 pounds into the 1,000 pound budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So what's your choices now?
So
then
we're
for angle?
195 quid. What?
You want to get to angle now, is that what you're saying?
So now, like what I was saying before, is you've got coilovers, camber arms, diff, seat and harness, and the hydro, and you sat in the car.
Yeah.
You don't need a steering wheel. You don't need electrical cut-offs at the
No,
moment.
no, none of that.
You don't need any of this sort of stuff. You don't need graphics. You don't need paint.
No.
Do you need steering angle? I think, personally, to have a decent drift car, you're going to need steering angle.
you
don't need it for a drift car.
It's going to need to have some improvement.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to sort of go out and make the most of the day, twin with people who have got angle,
Yeah.
you're going to need to be able to match their angle in the chase position or even in the lead position. You're not going to be wanting to run a massively shallow line because it's going to make it harder for the guy behind.
Yeah.
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 So I think steering angle is something there, but obviously there's a lot of options in that, from obviously cut hubs to a full lock kit. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
a full lock kit, I don't think
We've
it's gonna
got
be within
195
budget.
quid, so we ain't getting a Wisefab or IRP.
No.
And to be honest with you, if you turn up to your
Well,
first
we're
drift day with
gonna-
Wisefab on this, you'd look like a right idiot, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it'd be harder to learn the car, wouldn't it?
No,
It's
that's
yeah.
right. But Yeah, we wouldn't really drift a car at a standard angle because you've got to be like mega shallow, and you just won't really have much fun. And if you're learning and you've got that extra angle, it's going to save you more times than not.
Yeah, it's going to
As well
help
from
stop
spinning
you from
out
spinning out.
or over rotating.
Yeah.
The phrase is.
Over rotating and then somebody coming up the back of the car and crashing into the side of the
So
car.
the question is, do we go with a Fat Man kit or a like the LCA spacer?
I tell you what I would be dead set against would be buying those aluminium
The
adapters
eBay aluminium
off of
yeah,
eBay.
that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Because they snap, they
Yeah.
give you horrible Ackerman angle, they give
Yeah.
you almost like parallel steering, which is a horrible thing. I'm not going to go too much into Ackerman because
It's a whole massive.
it's a whole different thing. Basically, the natural steering of the car is nice to drive because it's designed from BMW, from the factory to have a nice steering to drive for the road day-to-day, to have day-to-day road use. However, you can modify the steering to have more angle and still have that. Watch the name. So I'm proposing we basically modify the hubs,
Yeah.
some rack spacers for the rack, which are cheap, like 10 quid.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Extend the arms, E36 extended arms,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, because obviously
hubs.
the E46 ones are aluminium. So
The E46 ones are aluminium. Extend the arms, and so we're going to buy some new.
Oh, extended arms.
Yeah, I was thinking.
No, we don't need extended arms.
You just think hubs and rack spaces.
Yeah, what do you need arms for? Because we're not running any big wheels, so you don't gain.
No, we don't have the budget for big wheels. We're running
no,
these.
That's what I'm saying.
We're running these.
But you're not gaining anything from the bigger arms.
Right. Okay.
You're not increasing your steering angle by moving the bottom of the wheel out. That's what I'm saying.
No.
No, yeah. Well,
You're only,
But
you're only
also,
giving
I
yourself
suppose-
more clearance.
no. You can get more thing because the hubs, a modified hub will give you like wicked angle on a BMW. One of the reasons we're using the E46 is because steering modifications are super cheap, which is one of the reasons we're using it.
A welder and a grinder.
A welder and a grinder.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is these 6.5, 7J wheels, they're not going to catch the inside of the wishbone, are
Yeah.
they?
Okay.
On-
All right. Well,
on
that's a fair
bottom.
point. And the hubs, modifying the hubs is going to be cheaper than.
Yeah.
But what are we allowing for the hub modification? 50 quid.
Well, yeah,
be
but
fair-
because we're doing it ourselves.
We're
but
just gonna
how
do it,
much
yeah.
does someone charge someone like Wizards of Lock? Is it about 100 quid or something?
I'll beat that out straight away.
No, but there are some companies out there that do the steel adapters, which do have actually quite good geometry on them. I mean,
Right.
my E30 is actually running adapters, lower arms,
Yeah.
and camber and caster adjustable top mounts.
Yeah.
So there are companies out there that do steel adjusters,
Yeah.
it's like steel blocks for the
E46.
hub modification,
Yeah, that's the
for
other
the
thing with
E46,
the-
and,
with
and I
these.
think they're only 50 or 60 quid for the steel block thing. So that could also be an option.
Yeah.
If you have
Okay,
a look out
well, what we're definitely not doing is putting a ridiculously expensive lock kit to give you a big angle because you don't need it. You don't need it to train, especially in this E46, because the car to have at the moment to get the maximum value for money is an E46.
Okay, so
Oh,
we're saying
without a
modded
doubt.
knuckles.
We're going to modify the knuckles.
Yeah, and how much are we
We'll
saying
show
it
exactly
costs?
what we do, and we'll allow what 80 quid.
80 quid, I think it's fair, yeah.
80 quid.
Yeah.
Rack spaces are a tenner, so that's 90 quid on top of the, what was it, 855? What are we up to now?
8.55.
No,
Oh, total
it's,
price.
Total price, yeah.
Including welding and diff, it was at £805.
£805 includes the diff, so another
Okay.
80, so 885.
Yeah, okay. Right.
And then we're at rack spaces that are £10 on eBay.
Yeah.
£895.
895.
Still leaves £105
Yeah.
left.
So there's £105 left.
And
So
obviously that's to get the harness as well.
Yeah,
But
so-
you could probably pick a harness up, 3 or 4 point harness for 30 or 40 quid second
Yeah.
hand out of date.
okay, so we're at 895, so we're looking at maybe 920, 930.
Yeah.
And then we do need a couple of things that basically makes the car track friendly. We want some bonnet pins so that the bonnet's easy to lift if you bump the car.
Again, for
Yeah.
the sake of a tenner on eBay.
For the sake of a tenner on eBay, some toe straps, which is a tenner for the rear,
Well,
tenner for the front.
toe straps are necessary, aren't they? For
Yeah,
most tracks.
99% of tracks want you to have some form of towing the car off track at the
Yeah.
front and the back, so we have to allow 30, 40 quid for that. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
basically up to the budget, aren't we? We're not
Yeah,
getting
no,
anything
you've
else.
probably got about 30 quid left to play with.
Yeah, 30 quid left to play with.
Which is cutting it fine, but it's proving that you can make a car for less than £1,000 so far
Yeah.
that will be able to go out on track and give you maximum amount of seat time.
Yeah. Plus, some people will factor in things that you can basically, if you're getting into drifting, you can kind of try and take as many freebies off people as possible. Some people will be getting stuff gifted for free, or getting stuff for a mate, or you'll kind of swap stuff, or someone, like we're taking the interior out of this car, you might be able to swap the standard seats for 30, 40 quid in that pubsy boy. So we have to sort of generalise it, but I think that's basically
there's a few other things that you could probably add on that people will be wondering about, and that's wheels and tyres. And I think it's fair to say that a standard Beamer wheel will cost you between £5 and £10 each.
Yeah.
If you're buying it.
Yeah,
Tyres, if you go down to your local tyre shop,
scrap parts.
I mean, I run my own tyre shop, and if people came to me and said, can I have a look for your scrap pile for tyres that we can take on and drift, it actually helps out the tyre shops, because tyre shops have to pay, I think I pay about £2 plus VAT per tyre to get rid of them.
Yeah.
So it's £2.40 that you're actually going to be saving the tyre shop to take those tyres away.
Yeah.
So most tyre shops will let you go through the scrap pile and take them away for free. So for that side of things, yeah, you're not going to have consistent grip on either side, but you are going to have tyres to use at the track day.
Yeah, and you might turn up to the first track day, it's raining, and you don't even change the tyres for the entire day.
No, exactly.
So that's a slightly separate thing. This is basically the car, your admission for your first track day is going to be different to your admission at your first track day somewhere else. It's going to be,
that's
Teesside is different, Buxton's different, Buxton's is about as cheap as it gets. Driftland, they do practice days, it's really cheap. Obviously nothing's really happening at the moment with lockdown, but things are easing up, and they're going to be, there's practice days booked in now for next month, for April.
So if we get back on topic then, we're not going to do a remap. Are we going to do a bash bar?
No,
or
we can't afford it. We can't afford a remap.
Right.
We've got 50 quid.
50 quid?
50 quid.
50 quid?
I'm sure you could find a friendly mapper to do that.
No, but we have to do this. This is the thing, Trev. We have to do it as if someone's going doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So we can't afford a remap.
No.
But
So
to be fair, a 2.8.
yeah, the car's got
more
enough
than
power.
adequate anyway.
The remap was more for a couple of things, but also like removing some of the EWS, in case, because sometimes you get wiring issues on the day, and then the immobilizer kicks in and stuff like that. Anyway, we can't do the bash bar. We can't do the remap because that puts us over the £1,000. But that's not to say we're not going to do a bash bar. We're not going to do a remap. We're going to do the build up to £1,000, and we're going to show what the car can do.
The absolute necessary.
The absolute necessary to have a decent drift car.
And then like the optional extras that we recommend if it's within their budget
Yeah,
at the time.
if you get this far and you're only down to sort of 800, 900 quid, or you buy a car with already some of this stuff on it, which is
you're
obviously-
laughing.
Yeah, you're
Say if you
laughing.
find
Yeah.
a car with coilovers already on it that are set up, like
Yeah.
even if they're just cheap max speed and most coilovers, like you
Yeah,
managed to
or
get
you
there.
could do a Paul Shield where you buy a car with loads of stuff on it, sell half of it off of it, then replace it with cheap stuff,
Yeah.
and then you've got a cheaper drift car. That's what he does.
Yeah. Is that Drift Cup famous Paul Shield?
Yeah, Drift Cup famous Paul Shield.
Shield.
Yeah, Paul Shield. I invited him to the video, but he won't come in.
He won't come in?
No, he won't come in.
I
no,
think
it's
he's
just-
sat in his
That
van out of the
doesn't
way.
sound
mate.
like,
he's-
that
he's
doesn't
like-
sound like infamous British Drift Cup.
No, he's sat in his
Paul
van.
Shield usually always gets in on these things.
Nah, he's just, I think he's just going to sit playing on this one.
Okay, this video's gone on for about 60 minutes.
yeah.
Right, thanks very much for watching. We're going to start building this thing, but the next thing we're going to do is basically take all the weight out of the
Take the
car.
weight out,
Yeah,
next,
and that is probably the best and biggest improvement you can make to the car. Handling,
without a doubt.
power, cornering, feel, everything is just taking all the weight out of the car. Plus your tyres last longer as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, tyres do last.
Yeah, all right, thanks very much.
Sweet.
Cheers, Collie.
Good work, Collie. We just went on and on, yeah.
This is the thing though, you've got to have this discussion.
Yeah. I thought it was alright.
At least if I've had this
Other than I
discussion.
thought I was